What is going on, investors? Hopefully you guys are having a great day out there. Time to talk about Verizon Communications, ticker symbol VZ. This company reported their fourth quarter earnings today, and they gave a little upside profit, and their Q4 actually beat, but shares are down fractionally, or about 3% actually, during the regular session. We see over the last year, the stock has really not done much, okay? A 3%, down 3% in a year. I know in a day where Wall Street bets is just driving up stocks by 100%, a stock like Verizon might go by the wayside. And, look, depending on what kind of investor you are, Verizon may or may not fit in your portfolio. I'll tell you where it fits in my portfolio, and then we'll talk about the numbers here. We'll show you why this stock is just kind of a steady performer. We'll talk about the dividend and things like that. And then finally, we'll jump over the stock chart, see if this one's pulling back into a range where maybe you can add to it if you already have some shares of Verizon. But Verizon belongs in my portfolio. Okay, it has a 4.3% yield. I think I've bought it at higher yield than that, maybe closer to 5. I'll tell you why I buy Verizon. Okay, in a bank account, you're not earning really any money. Even in a quote unquote high yield bank account, it's not very much money. So what I do is I use Verizon as kind of an emergency fund. So I put some money in Verizon. It's money that if I need it, it's there. And if I don't need it, it is growing because of this dividend. Is it growing like GameStop stock or Tesla stock? No, absolutely not. But there's a portion of my portfolio that is for that. And so, but if you are keeping money in Verizon because it's quote unquote safe and it's not very volatile, and you're doing it because of the dividend, analyzing it each month or each quarter is very viable because this is money that you might need at some point. So we'll take a look. We'll jump in here. Jumping off of the press release to me is you had media sales, which if you don't remember, Verizon actually owns Yahoo. So Yahoo Finance and Yahoo Mail and things like that. Media sales were actually up 11%. So this is the first year over year growth for the unit since the Yahoo acquisition in 2017. So they haven't grown that business since they've bought Yahoo in 2017. So I actually think that's pretty good. It's still a small business for them, but seeing that grow is nice. Now, from a valuation perspective with Verizon, I take a look at price to sales here. We're seeing here, it's actually kind of elevated. Anytime this stock has gotten over that 1.9 price to sales, this basically over the last 3 years has proven to be kind of a resistance point. We kind of peeked our head over it and we're sitting at it right now. So I wouldn't necessarily think Verizon's a great buy right at the current moment. I'll show you when we go over the stock chart. There could be an area coming up here pretty soon. Now, from a financial perspective, just super steady. Okay, we've got operating revenues here. They were basically flat. We've got the quarter over quarter here, and then we've got year over year. This was our fourth quarter, so we get a full year view. Basically flat. I mean, just fractionally down. In a tough year, you know what I mean? So operating revenues here, basically flat. Year over year, quarter over quarter. Now, operating income. So these are operating expenses. So they break it out expense wise, basically down a little bit. That's probably good. When you have kind of flat up here, they're controlling expenses down here. That's going to likely lead to operating income, at least for the quarter, to tick up kind of nicely. And it did. We went from 6.6 up to $7.1 billion. And this is in a quarter. Okay. Here's for the full year. We were down fractionally about 5%. We went from 30 down to 28. Now, from an earnings per share perspective, so we've got our net income here. That slid about 10% on both sides, but we've got our earning per share here. We've got $1.11 for the quarter. We earned $4.30. So we come back here and we see that they pay a $2.51 dividend. So this is a company that has plenty of margin for safety for this dividend, and they're also able to reinvest in their 5G network and things like that. Whatever else they've got going on at Verizon, they've got plenty of money to reinvest, but also not only keep paying this dividend, but maybe raise it, hopefully here in the near term. So we got plenty of cash. We got $19 billion more than we did at the beginning of the year. Take a look. I wonder where that came from. Well, if you guessed debt, you guessed it. Here's $100 million. We had $100 billion in debt. Now we got 123. This is over the course of the year. So we raised that by about 22 billion. That's where most of this cash came from on the balance sheet. Finally, last thing I want to show you really quickly is down here at the cash flow statement. So for the full year, these are full year cash flow statements. You see last year we generated $35 billion in cash flow. This year, $41 billion. This is why cash flow is kind of important. I showed you that they made about $18 billion net income. The previous year, they made $19 billion. But This is not all cash. According to the GAAP accepted accounting principle rules out there, you've got to factor in some things like depreciation, which is not cash flowing out of the business. This is just something you have to recognize on the balance sheet basically as cash, but it's not actually cash. And so we've got deferred income taxes. We've got other things that the cash might flow out at some point with these income taxes and credit losses and things like that, but it might not, or it's not cash like depreciation, which is a large charge. So we got $41 billion. Wow, that's a lot. Okay. Now to come down here and take a look, proceeds from long-term borrowing. I showed you they borrowed about $25 billion more this year. Here's our dividend. This is really important. If you're buying this stock for the dividend, which I think I would guess 90%, maybe even higher than that, that's what people are doing with this stock. $10 billion. So they paid $10 billion in dividends, but they had $41 billion in positive cash flow for the year. Plenty of room here, plenty of room to eat on that dividend. Now, what you want to do with Verizon is you want to watch it pull back to a price where you can come in here and get this one. You're not going to get it for price appreciation. What I showed you here for the last year, the stock is basically flat. It's a bank account. Okay, not everybody's going to agree with me on this one, but I view Verizon and some other stocks as basically a bank account. I put extra money in here if I need money for my family, my kids, my mortgage, my car, if I lose income, whatever, I will be able to tap into this. If I don't, I earn 4 or 5% on my money. Now we're coming back down here. Notice that Verizon kind of pops up, pulls back, pulling back into the, I'm on a weekly chart and this goes back to like 2018. So this is like a 2-year chart here. Any pullback into the 53 to 55, in my opinion, can be a buy with Verizon. Your yield would probably be pretty close to 5%. This is where I think you want to get this stock, because notice over the last 2 years, this stock has pulled into this zone and then immediately kind of started to run, not immediately, but wanted to turn around. Now we've got some March lows here where it kind of carved through here, but this 50-day moving average will act as some support, but also I think down here at the 53, 54 level, anywhere in this box, if you want to add to shares of Verizon, or if you want to use it like me as kind of a quasi kind of interest earning bank account, that's where I personally would get Verizon. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Again, not one of these high-flying stocks, but the older you get, stocks like this do belong in your portfolio, but you want to come through here, understand the financial statements, understand what's going on with these, so you don't get caught with maybe this company kind of making the wrong turn, and then all of a sudden your safety net is gone. So put stop losses underneath stocks like this, just in case something like that were to happen. But in this case, Verizon's a solid company. This dividend's really solid. They can probably raise it even more so in the future. So we'll see what happens with Verizon going forward. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Good luck with your investments.